what is going on, guys? I am Black Ops Amazing. Welcome back to another video on the channel, back with another Zombies Q&A, taking your questions and answering them to do with the zombie storyline, Easter eggs, and basically whatever you want. So as always, if you enjoyed today's video, make sure you drop a like rating if you want to. If not, it's fine. Make sure you are subscribed if you want to stay up to date with the latest videos on the channel. But let's get into it. Here we go. So the first question of today says, can you still do the Mannequin Zombies Easter egg on Nuketown? If so, is it the same? So the answer is, yes, you can still do it. Nuketown was added into Black Ops 4, I believe around about just over a month ago. However, at the time, it wasn't available in custom games. You could only play it online with other people, so this Easter egg was really difficult to do. In fact, it was pretty much impossible because if you're playing against an enemy team, you're not going to shoot off all of the mannequin heads in time. So even though the map was available, the Easter egg really wasn't possible unless you glitched it. However, I think it was about a week ago now, Treyarch finally added Nuketown into custom games, so you can actually go in there and do this Easter egg for yourself. It works the same as it did originally on BO3 zombies. And what you have to do, if you don't know, is shoot the heads off all of the mannequins in the map in under, I believe it's 2 minutes, it may be 3. But basically you've got to shoot off all of the mannequin heads as quickly as possible. And once you do that, in the middle of the map, the center of it will open up, a rocket will fly out up into the sky, where it seems to then explode and releases this purple cloud, which looks very similar to the effect from a Gersh device or a rift. So whether or not this ties into the actual zombie storyline, I don't know, because we know that Blackout does. Treyarch have told us that they are somehow going to connect Blackout into the zombie storyline. It's very out there, it really doesn't have anything to do with the main storyline, but it seems like somewhere in another universe far out there, the premise characters ended up in the Blackout map, so that is connected to zombies. It doesn't really make much sense, but they've somehow fitted it in. And if that's the case for that, well, there could always be a storyline tie-in for Nuketown zombies. Was this rocket in the middle filled with 115? It went up, blew up, the 115 spread across the air as you saw, opened up a rift, which they then fell through, and the zombie mannequins were running everywhere. I don't know, it's definitely interesting. Of course, this takes place in Russia, and Russia did have a part to play, in fact a massive part in the zombie storyline. It'd be interesting to see if any more information ever comes out about this. Maybe if we have an update of the Canorium, if we had something that actually included the new Nuketown zombies, that'd be interesting, but for now, there's really not too much to go on. All we can do is speculate. The Soviet Union says, hey BOA, I have a question. Did Treyarch have this whole storyline planned from the beginning? The simple answer is no, but it's more complicated than that. Do you mean the whole storyline like from BO3, BO4? Did they have, you know, the BO3 and 4 maps? Did they have Shadows of Evil, the Canorium, the Summoning Key, the Shadow Man, Dr. Monty? Was all of that planned from the beginning, from World at War? The answer is no, but it's also not one you can simply answer because obviously I don't know Treyarch's mind. I don't work there. I can't say when exactly they would have thought of this and then started making it. I think it's pretty clear that they thought of the Black Ops 4 zombies maps, Blood of the Dead, and Classified maybe back during the times of BO3. About 3 or 4 years ago, I think they would have had the idea for Blood of the Dead, but it's difficult to say. We know for the first couple of maps when zombies first started in World at War, they just went along map by map because they didn't really have a storyline back then, and Nakda and Totem was just a project. It was never intended to go any further. The next map was Verrucht, which again didn't really have a storyline. There was Easter eggs implemented, but there wasn't really a story. We then had Shinonuma. I think that's where things started to pick up. That was when we first saw our Ultimus characters. Before that, it was just random Marines. Obviously, Dempsey was introduced in Verrucht, but all 4 of our Ultimus crew were first played together in Shinonuma, and Derice was actually the first map where a proper storyline was introduced. So that's really where it all started. Obviously, a storyline was made up for the previous maps later on. It was added in. And we also know that they thought of maps like Moon back during World at War. So I think in the earlier days, Black Ops 1, BO2, they probably had the whole storyline thought out for the whole game when they started making it. And then for Black Ops 2, I think it's pretty obvious that they knew what they wanted to do for the BO3 storyline, at least around the time they were making Origins, and then they clearly knew the BO4 storyline, what they wanted to do at the beginning of BO3. And obviously with something as complex as zombies, they really need to, especially now with how many things there is. There's a lot of planning that needs to go into it. They need to think a long time before they actually make the map, what exactly it's going to be and the storyline it's going to include, just because there's so much. You know, I guess you'd have to plan for a map like Blood of the Dead, possibly even when they were making Mob of the Dead, or just after that. So yeah, again, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. The next question from Rave Fedora, which kind of links into the last one, says, can you explain dimensions? Like you mentioned fractures, does that mean they're willed into existence due to certain events, or are they already there but just closed off so we wouldn't know? So again, another totally valid question, because our zombie storyline at this point in time is very confusing. There are loads of different realities out there. There are normal dimensions, there are fractured dimensions, there are also pocket dimensions. There are loads of different dimensions out there, different realities, yet the same. The zombie storyline back in, I don't know, World at War, Black Ops 1, maybe even Black Ops 2 partway through at least, was very simple. All of that took place in the same reality from World at War up until BO2 Origins. And then after that, Treyarch introduced new ones. They introduced fractures and, like I said, pocket dimensions as well. And it's really difficult to explain. To be honest, I can't even get my head around it 100%. But like I said, from World at War to Black Ops 2 up until Buried, all of that took place in the same dimension, in the same world, in the same reality. All of that happened in the same place. And then in Origins, that took place in a whole new dimension, Dimension 63, which was the same for most of our storyline after that. However, a lot of the maps in BO3 took place in fractures of their original universe. Obviously, because in BO3, a lot of things that we see happen are much different to what happened originally. For example, in the original timeline, World War II ended and Group 935 was disbandoned. However, in our Dimension 63 timeline, we know World War II doesn't end. Gorod Korovi comes into existence, where we now have giant robots fighting against dragons. And that all started with the Giant. When Richtofen travelled back in time to kill his former self in the Giant, or Derice, it was that specific event that was the first time that triggered fractures across space and time throughout. And so because of that, the Giant, that map itself was in a fracture. The Giant, because of Richtofen killing himself, changing the future, then became a fractured universe. Hence why things in that map were different to the original Derice. And what I mean by a fractured universe is, and it's difficult to explain, but think of it as it is part of the Dimension 63 timeline. It is part of the original story. However, because of something drastic changing in that map, that portion of the dimension, this little area, this map, I guess you could say, breaks off from the timeline and becomes its own little thing. It was originally a part of the normal story, but because of something different in it, it's kind of broken off and become its own thing. It still has most things that it would have originally, just a few things are different. It's really difficult to explain, but the Giant is a fractured universe, specifically to us known as the Decepto fracture. Der Eisendrak is also a fracture, Zetsubo no Shima is a fracture, and Gorod Korovi is a fracture as well. All of these events originally wouldn't have happened, but because of significant events changing in the timeline, they've broken off from their original place and kind of become their own thing. And then of course we had Zombies Chronicles as well. Those maps in BO3 were also in their own fractured universes. Even though the maps were the same as the original Black Ops ones, we can tell that there are some different things. For example, the weapons in Zombies Chronicles are different to how they were originally. We have the Gobblegum system. There are a few things in those maps that weren't there originally, placement of objects and stuff like that. So those maps again are in a fracture. Mob of the Dead was a little bit different because that took place in Purgatory, in the afterlife, in a pocket dimension it seems. A pocket dimension by definition is a piece of space cut out of another dimension and fitted into another space. So that is what Mob of the Dead and also Blood of the Dead is. And then of course Classified in BO4, that map we're not 100% sure about because it takes place before 5, which would make me think it has to be a fractured universe. Nowhere in the original timeline were we told that the Ultimus crew ever travelled to the Pentagon. Maybe they did and the Chronorium just never told us about it, but personally I think it's in a fractured universe. However, it could not be. It could be part of the original dimension or timeline. So yeah, it's difficult to explain, but hopefully that helps. So anyway guys, that is all for today's video. As always, hopefully you have enjoyed. If you have, you know what to do. Drop drop a like rating, make sure you are subscribed to stay up to date with the latest videos on the channel, and as always I will see you guys in the next one. Thank you and goodbye.